Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in to the Salty Coral Tank. This episode is basically going to be on how I test all the levels in my reef tank, which levels I prefer testing and why, and what to do in case you have to mitigate any results. I haven't tested these parameters for a couple of days, so I'll be curious to see after I started dosing what my levels look like, whether I need to tweak those with the two-part, and then how I'm going to do that I'll let you know as well. This is for GM Neptune 1556 specifically. Hey man, congrats on getting into the hobby. I know you've only been in for 2 weeks, and you know, if you take a look at my older videos, you can see that I had the definition of a budget setup. So I'm not sure what you have going on in your tank, but man, I remember the excitement I had around setting it up and just the eagerness I had to learn all about the hobby. So I want to give you a little bit of what I learned over the past 12 years concerning the parameters. And I had to wait till my son was asleep so I can film this, so that's why the lights are off. And I appreciate likes, subscribes, and comments for more content in the future. Thanks a lot, and I'm going to switch over to what I prefer for my checking my levels, and I'll let you know why in a moment. Okay, this is the setup that I prefer to use. So I use the handheld checkers by Hanna Instruments. I got these off of Bulk Reef Supply a while ago, and I've been using them ever since, probably about 2018, 2019, something like that. The reason I like these checkers is because I am color deficient, and I, for the life of me, have so much trouble differentiating the colors when you're using those test cards, and trying to compare them to what's in the jar or the bottles was always way difficult for me. These are a more expensive route, obviously. And they're about $60 some a piece. I think they're actually on sale at Bulk Reef Supply for like 20% off right now. I just saw the other day until Monday. And so if you want to get on the Bulk Reef Supply site and check them out, you can. No plugs for them, by the way. Sorry, my dishwasher's running. No plugs for them, by the way. I just mentioned them because that's where I get my stuff. If you need a more budget-friendly approach, I wouldn't go the cheapest route by any means. The ones, the marine check test kits with all the ones that come in the clear box that you can see everything. I just do not trust those as much as I trust the Reef, the Red Sea Foundation Pro test kits. I really like these. They're a little more pricey, but I think they're worth the money if you don't have a checker like I have now. This one's way expired, but I kept it on Glad so I can show you guys. This is another alternative that you can use for your test kits. And then in order to use the calcium test kit from the Hanna Instruments, you do have to have deionized water. I ran out of this a while ago. This is like quote unquote lab grade. This little bottle is kind of expensive. It's 250 milliliters for, I can't even remember, 12, 15, maybe even more dollars than that. But this whole gallon jug of lab grade deionized water from Amazon was like 17 bucks with next day shipping. So I just refilled this container with this, and I'm sure it's as close to 0 TDS. I mean, it's, you know, it says it's for laboratory use. I don't know if that's like, you know, quote unquote 100% accurate or not by this company, but I'm willing to trust them. So calcium is one of my top 2 most important things that I want to know about my aquarium. It tells me that my corals are going to have enough calcium to build their calcium carbonate shells with, or whatever you call it. Calcium basically is their skeletal structural main component. So this is really important to know. Again, 420, 430 is what I like to keep mine at, but I'll be curious to see what it is at tonight when I check it. Second most important thing for me, or one of the top 2 for me, is the alkalinity. The alkalinity is basically your buffer system in your reef tank. And if you have, sorry about that dishwasher, if you have low alkalinity, you may have problems with pH swings, especially at night as the lights turn off. A lot of times there are metabolic processes in the daytime that come about in your aquarium that kind of stabilize the pH. But once your corals stop receiving the light, I don't know, some weird science happens and your pH can drop, especially if your alkalinity is not in check. These are top 2, I said, but maybe top 3. Salinity is another top one for me. So it's probably the most important one I like to know on a daily basis. I just, stick the checker in there. As long as it's calibrated, it's going to give you as accurate a result as can be. And it's a lot easier to use this dip system, and I'll show you that in a minute, than it is to use a refractometer, and it's much more accurate than one of those float salinity testers. But if the float is all you have, just make sure it's seasoned, and then check it frequently just to make sure. Especially if you're doing manual auto or a manual water top off, you're going to have more salt swing problems. Phosphorus is important to me because this tells me how much I'm overfeeding or how much my corals and fish are consuming and not being able to eliminate. If you don't have crazy algae growth in your tank, I wouldn't necessarily worry about checking phosphorus as much. This wouldn't be 100% necessary for me to have. I'm a science guy, so I like more information is better to me. The more I know, the more relaxed I am, and so that crosses over to my reef tank keeping as well. So I like the phosphorus to make sure I'm not doing something crazy in my tank. But like I said, if your algae's in check, if you're not having big problems and you're not seeing issues with fish, you should be okay. And if you're doing your water changes and sucking up that detritus at the bottom that accumulates and the algae is under control, you're probably good. I'll be curious to see what this is because, to be honest with you, I haven't checked my phosphorus since I set my tank up here, actually even a year ago since I've moved, so I probably had some big swings. I'll be curious to see that tonight. So we'll find out together if I'm having crazy phosphorus issues and just don't know about it. Lastly, a pH tester is, I think, important as well. I would beg to say that if your alkalinity is 9, 10, 8, 9, 10, something like that, and your calcium is 415 to 430 or so, you're probably okay with your pH. I just calibrated this the other day with the 10.1 solution, or 10.01, I can't quite remember, but it's calibrated for the higher pH test, so we'll test it now. Actually, with my lights off, it's going to be a good thing to find out to see if my levels are staying stable at night. So we'll find that out together too. I'm going to go ahead and get some of these ready to test. I'll do alkalinity first since it's pretty easy. Actually, we'll do salinity first and then we'll do alkalinity. No, salinity, then pH, then alkalinity. Those will be the easiest ways to go. So I'll show you that in just a moment. Okay, so I'm back at the reef tank. I'm just going to go ahead and cycle this on, and it's pretty much drop in and just let it do its thing. So this is how I test my salinity right here, and it's 1.026. We'll wait till that hourglass goes away to let it finalize its reading. This is exactly what I like to keep my tank at, and I think that this will maintain the alkalinity and the calcium at the best levels. I've run the tanks at 1.024 before, and I didn't have as good a results with the alkalinity stability. So, and you saw that was 1.026. When I'm done with this, I'm just going to give it a little rinse with some DI water here in just a moment, and then we'll be on to the pH. I'm going to be just as curious as you are about this pH, so we'll see what it is once this gets loaded up. And that was probably my reading from the last time, so let me just get this all squared away. 8.4 is a little bit on the high end, so 8.5, I might have overdosed my calcium or something like that, so we'll see. Let's just let this actuate. 8.5 is a little high, and that's what it's reading now. So I'm going to be checking my alkalinity and stuff, so maybe I overdosed it. And I like to keep this between 2 and 8.4. 8.5 is a little high, so I may have to change out some water. We'll just have to see. I may have to get the X2SR up online for a couple gallons of exchange here. And we'll give this a rinse in the DI solution here as well. Okay, and then all of these testers are basically the same. So you have the reagent that reacts with your sample, and then so I've drawn up a milliliter of my reagent. I'm going to add it to my sample water that in the container that I rinsed with DI water before. I'm going to turn my machine on as well, and this is going to do a self-calibration, and then I'm going to add C1 or sample 1. So I'm going to cap this and put it in here. Okay, I've capped my cleaned and dried sample container, and I'm going to turn this on, and it's going to read that, and it's going to establish a baseline. Then I'm going to add calcium or the alkalinity reagent. And any minute now. Okay, I've added my reagent, and it's important to mix it up as described by the instructions. And now I'm going to put it in here, and this would be the same with the color checkers. I just cannot for the life of me read those cards, so I let a machine do it with me. And 8.5 is my alkalinity. I was dosing I can't quite remember, 20 per day, or actually 10 mils per day. So I just upped that to 20. So that's going to be hopefully keeping it more stable. But I like anywhere from 8 to 9, and I was keeping it at 9 the other day. So I'm going to adjust my dosing accordingly. Okay, calcium is by far the most difficult to test for that I have. So I like to get all of my stuff ready. I have unreacted sample, and I'm going to add calcium reagent A to this unreacted sample. When this says press C or introduce C1, I'm going to put that in there, and then I'm going to let it stabilize itself. And then for C2, I'm going to put a tiny bit of water using this special dropper into there. And then I'm also going to put calcium reagent B in there. And since this machine shuts off on itself, and I've lost some tests in the past, I have everything sitting out and ready and easy. So I don't think I'll be able to do this one-handed. I'll just show you each step. Oh, and real quick, I forgot to mention, this is deionized water. This is salt water. So this is very important. You can't put salt water in here. It's going to mess your test up. So deionized water, calcium reagent A goes into that C1, okay? I've added C1. We're going to let this cook, and then I'm going to add the salt and then the reagent and shake it as described in the instructions. And then I'm going to place it back in there. Okay, I've added C2, and we're going to see what this cooks out at. 438. So that's really good. It's a little on the high end, but I was dosing extra to get it up where I wanted it because it was down to 397. So 438 is good. I can go ahead and taper off my dosage. Actually, I've already done that. And then we'll see if I was doing 16 milliliters 5 times a day for 80 milliliters. And now I think I can back that down to, we'll try 20 milliliters per day to see what we stabilize at. This phosphorus ultra low range test is important to note that I'm going to add my unreacted sample, and then when it says add your press C or add C2, I'm going to mix it with the ultra low range reagent, shake it for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to press and hold the button until it's counting down. If you don't do that and you accidentally short press it, you're going to have to open another reagent kit. So this is a little finicky. Just pay attention to the instructions, depending on your kit, of course. Okay, I'm going to press and long hold and wait for that counter. There it is. So we'll just wait 3 minutes. I'll be right back. Okay, moment of truth. 3, 2, 1, and my phosphates are, is that 0? Oh, 0. Yeah. Oh, wow. So my water is clean. And I don't know if that's due to my clam or due to the shadow ball in the sump, because I do still have some algae growth despite this reading. So let me get back to the tank. It could be that the algae is growing very slowly and it's just eating up all the phosphates before it really becomes a problem. And my algae's not exploded, so I know that there's not a phosphate problem. If you're just having major problems with algae control, it's most likely that your phosphates are out of control or your nitrates are high. And that's one thing I didn't test for, nitrates. I like a little nitrates in my aquarium. I don't mind them. I actually like a little phosphate, so I'm a little surprised. I can try to feed a little bit more, or I can maybe take half the shadow ball out and maybe keep it a little smaller. But right now, I'm really happy with all of these readings. 438 for my calcium. I can let that dip down. That's probably why my pH is also 8.5, and I like 8.3 or so. So I can drop that down to 420 to see what it does for my pH. My alkalinity is great, 8 to 9. I prefer 9, so maybe I can go up a little more on my alkalinity. All in all, I'm really happy. And I think that I have a tank load right now that can tolerate the little dosing that I'm doing. So once I get more SPS corals, once I get, well, more corals in general after I moved and killed them all, I'm going to require a lot more solution for the maintenance of the alkalinity and calcium. But those are the most important things I like to test for in my aquarium. And I gave you a walkthrough of how the Hanna Checkers work. Like I said, they're easy for me. I'm color deficient, so I just can't do the swatches. I'd have to ask for help every time. And a while ago I was living alone. But I'm really happy, and my levels are probably why my corals are putting on the mass that I can see. You're probably not picking it up on the videos, but like they're literally growing a millimeter a week almost, it seems. That's probably a bit of an exaggeration, but I'm telling you, things are looking good in here. Levels are great. My dosing is good. Let's go down here. So again, I use the B Ionic. There are a couple of different things that you can use, like you can use All for Reef. There are so many systems out there. Just go to BRS and look at Additives, bulkreefsupply.com. Again, like not affiliated with them, I just like them. But the B Ionic is what I use. The only thing with the two-part you have to be careful of is, since the main components are calcium chloride, what was it? Sodium chloride? No. Oh yes, sodium bicarb and then calcium chloride is what they use. And so when you dose those into your tank, if you're not doing water changes, the calcium chloride disassociates, and so does the sodium bicarb. It disassociates. But the chloride and the sodium combine in the water to create sodium chloride. So your salt actually can get out of whack as far as your levels that you're putting in. So if you're just letting your tank go and not doing the water changes, then you may have problems. There's my auto top off. You're going to have problems with salinity, and the wrong kind of salinity for a saltwater aquarium, because you're not going to have the calcium and you're not going to have the alkalinity, and all the ions are going to be out of whack in there. So you do want to be sure to do your water changes, even if you're dosing, to prevent doing as many water changes, because when these components disassociate, they'll mess that up. And I think that the All for Reef, Bulk Reef Supply, did a recent video on them, and they use a different form of calcium. I think it's like calcium, it starts with an S, foramate or something or other, I don't know. That actually does not disassociate in the same way, so you won't have salinity swings in the wrong balance of salinity, I guess, or the wrong salts in your aquarium. That's something to think about. So I think that I'll tone it down on the calcium for a while. I was like really increasing it over the past couple of days to get it from 397, and now it's 438. That's great. I can dial this way back. I'll probably dose these at the same level, so like 1-to-1, and see what that does. And I'll probably increase my alkalinity a little bit. I was dosing minuscule, like 2 mils 5 times a day, so 10 mils. I upped it to 20, and I'll see what that does for me. And then I decreased this from 50 mils a day down to 20. So now they're 1-to-1. We'll see what that does for me. But if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe. If you have any questions, or if you think that I can have any improvements in any area, let me know. But that's how I do my testing. It's really important to know the levels in your aquarium so you can give your critters the happiest life they can have. And let me just tell you, even though it's nighttime, this clam is loving it in here. He's putting on maybe 1 millimeter a week. I am not even lying to you. So in this scoot on the back here is basically, really coming in strong. And then he has little scoots down underneath that are also growing like crazy. That's that. My coral coloration is also back to what it used to be, and it's getting better every day. And I attribute that to my testing and the levels that I'm maintaining. Thanks a lot. You guys have a great night. Oh, real quick, one last thing. Do not forget to rinse everything with deionized water and leave it out to dry. You shouldn't have any water spots left if all you have is deionized water in here. So when this dries, there shouldn't be water spots, but I always rinse them out with DI water before I put the samples in anyway. So just FYI, it really helps with the accuracy of your tests. Thanks, and for real, have a great night.